Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the Exodia event. Sorry, I mean the Legend Anthology event. And as that event is wrapping up, we're about to get our second festival for this month, which is the Fusion Synchro event. And well, Exodia is legal for this event. I don't think you'll have to worry about playing against much Millennium in this event. So, you can have a break from Exodia for a while. That being said, unlike the last format where most people's decks are severely gimped and just full of a bunch of random stuff that they have to, find at the bottom of the scraps to make their deck legal, this is a bit different. There are quite a few decks in here that are quite powerful, close to constructed, and I'm honestly surprised at that they're actually legal at all, given what they hit. For some reason, Konami thought they banned Tenpai, by the way, just they banned Tenpai, so don't have to worry about that. But for some reason, they thought Centur-ion was going to be a big problem this event, so they not only did they ban Crimson Dragon, they limited Chimera and they limited Emblem of Oath. So literally any single one of those hits through Centur-ion would have been enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, I get it, you don't want us to play a Centur-ion for another synchro event. I understand there are other events that are going to be better with these hits. But the fact that they hit all three of those cards is kind of wild, given some other decks that are legal. It's shocking that they were that scared of Centur-ion for some reason. But, I'll show you, let's get into the decks that are legal and that I think are personally would have been better than Centur-ion anyways, but that I don't make these ban lists, Konami does. Alright, let's get some of the obvious stuff out of the way. First, branded in a Fusion Festival. I know, groundbreaking stuff. Nobody could ever see this deck being played in a Fusion Festival. And yeah, they didn't kill this deck, they only hit a few random cards in it. They hit the Alibur that just went to 3 on this previous ban list, is now down to the limited again, although they didn't brand openings to 3. And the only other hit that I can see is really Albion the Brand Dragon going to 1 when normally this is run to 2. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I mean, you'll manage if like everything else is mostly legal. And this is a 60 card deck, but grass is banned, so you're not going to be mowing the lawn or anything with this deck, which is fine. You don't need grass resolve to play with this deck anyways. And the Lubellion is at 1, but honestly, branded only really plays one Lubellion anyways, because you can just search it with branded fusion, so it's not really that big of a deal. And another thing is Super Poly. So Super Poly is limited in this event. And notice I'm opting not to play Super Poly in this deck. You can, for sure, you can run Super Poly in here. It's not like it's that big of a space. Like you can just put in Garura and Mud Dragon, which are both legal, I believe. Yeah, so hold on, that's not how you spell it. Mud Dragon. Yeah, Mud Dragon is legal and Garura is legal. So the Super Poly targets are still legal. You can put in take out 2 slots from your extra deck to play in Super Poly if you want. If you find it worth using 2 spots for a 1-up that's unsearchable in the 60 card deck. Personally, I opted not to run that. I'm running some other stuff in place of it, but it's not. I mean, it's not like you don't have the space. And along other decks, even though this branded does, I mean, it got some hits. Like it got a couple hits. But for the most part, Branded is the least hit deck out of probably all of the playable decks, for the simple reason that Branded is the deck that least needs links. You'll see other decks later on that, while they are Fusion and primarily Fusion-based and Synchro-based decks, they do utilize links as part of their main strategy a lot of the time. Branded does not. Branded, it uses Verte sometimes as a way to play through hand traps to make a Mirror J through a hand trap, but that's it. You're not going out of your way to make a Verte normally, okay? And that's the only link Branded usually plays. Other than that, the extra deck, you don't really feel the limitations from this event as you would in other decks. So, yeah, this is a 60 card build. You can cut it down to a 40 card build, especially without grass. I mean, you can honestly build whatever the way you want for this event, but Branded, you can pretty much every viable way you can play Branded in normal rank, you can play it in this event here. So this is one way to build it, and this highlights all of the playable cards that Branded still has access to. So you have Keeper of Dragon Magic, which is essentially just Alibur that requires a discard. It searches Brand and Fusion. Also, note that it can also search Fusion Deployment if you, for some reason, want to do that, because it searches a Fusion normal spell. Yeah, you have the triple Albast, which I'm surprised this is still at 3, honestly. Like, limiting Albast in some way, shape, or form is going to be a bigger hit than hitting Alibar, just because there's so many ways to search every single card in this deck, and there's so many normal summons, such as Keeper Dragon Magic and Kit, that can replicate the purpose of Alibar, whereas Fallen Albast is an engine requirement, and you specifically need this card in your deck to, you know, to be able to activate a ton of your cards, like the other Albion or Brand Fusion specifically. But yeah, Albast is still at 3, so this deck can do whatever it wants. You have the Courier, the negate, but most often times it's gonna be like banished off of something like a Gold Star 2 to search any of your Fallen Albast monsters. Monster name mentioned Fallen Albast in it, including Kit. You know, Kit, if you have a fusion in the grave, an Albast fusion in the grave, you can just special summon it and then it searches. Or it can, notably, it also adds banished spell traps that are banished or in your graveyard. So it's also recycling. A lot of people don't really know that part of its effect, but yes, you can add back stuff like banished retributions and banished spell traps to so you can infinitely recycle resources if this deck needed more recursion. And of course, there's 3 Cartesia. I should note that this is not a budget version of the deck. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but this is obviously not a budget version of the deck. I will be doing probably a budget version of the deck later, involving what you can make with just 3 structure decks, or not 3 structure decks, involving something that you can make with just the structure deck that you got for free. This is obviously not built with just the structure decks. There are so many cards, so many URs in here that are not from the structure deck that don't come with the structure decks, such as Quem and like the Bystials, like Rebellion, and then of course you have all the staples like Thrust. Fusion Deployment, it's alright. Actually, Fusion Deployment is from a different structure deck that you have to buy, but it's not that bad. And then, you know, Gold Sark, you have to craft or pull from the pack. And then, obviously, not every fusion in here, specifically the non-Albast fusions, are also not from the structure deck. So this is not a budget-friendly build. Just to get that out of the way. But yeah, then 3 Cartesia. So Cartesia is actually one of the things that is included in the structure deck, funnily enough. But yeah, you can run this at any copies from like 1 to 3. 1 is like, you technically only need 1 to do all your combos with. You can just dump this off of Quem, and then you can revive it later, or you can dump this off Brand Fusion. You can have access to this most times. You can also, you'd rather special summon this off of a Fusion Deployment, for example, than normal summon it. Although, admittedly, with a Brand opening at more copies than Alibar, normal summoning Cartesia isn't bad, because like, when you hard draw Cartesia, it lets you dodge Imperm and Valor on your normal summons, which is another good use of it. So, for example, if you have it on the field, and you like summon a Keeper Dragon Magic, if they try to Imperm or Valor this to prevent you from adding Brand Fusion, you can chain the Cartesia to essentially be able to check yourself from Imperms that you will always be able to search your Brand Fusion. And with Brand Opening doesn't take a normal summon, so you can spend your normal summon on the Cartesia and then use a Brand Opening to get the Alibar from deck, and then they can't Imperm the Alibar there at either. So that's pretty nice. And also, there's lots of lines where you can get a Fallen Albast in grave, or Albion the Shroud Drag counts as an Albast in grave, where, you know, there are lines where you can activate Albion, chain Brand High Spirits, pitch the Albion, get it, send off Albion. Albion is now in grave, it counts as Fallen Albast. Then you can special summon Blazing Cartesia. Now Cartesia's on the field, now you can normal summon your Keeper of Dragon Magic or your Alibar or your Quem, and then it'll be protected from Infirm because you can just chain the Cartesia to dodge it. So yeah, that's why I like 3. But again, you could run 1 as well. 2 Quem, I think 2 Quem is necessary because like you're gonna use 1 during the combo, and then you want like a second one to summon off of your Grand Guignol later, since Grand Guignol can summon Quem from the deck. So pretty nice. You have the Bystial. Sarnier is at 3 now, and this is probably going to be a format where Bystials are very good, so it doesn't hurt to run 3 of your best Bystial, and then Magnamut. So because of Keeper Dragon Magic now, Magnamut can also search, basically, it can search you in Sarnier as another Bystial, but it can also search you basically any engine piece you want now, between Fallen Valbast, Keeper Dragon Magic, and Albion, which bins any Spinner Cell Trap. So I think Magnamut is good now. Also, searches Rebellion. I don't think you would ever you would rarely search Lubellion off the Magma because you could have so much easy access to this off Brand Infusion already. 3 Albions is the 60 card deck, so it's better. This is like a better Upstart Golem because it's an Upstart Golem with upside, and you can foolish any Brand spell trap, so it combines well with Brand Retribution. That's another way. The other way you get Brand Infusion to hand, besides directly searching it, is by Retribution adding it from back from the grave, which involves you dumping both Brand Infusion and Brand Retribution into the grave with stuff like Sarnier and Albion. So maxing out on this makes it more consistent. Same with Cartagia fusioning into Grand Guignol to dump a Sarnier or an Albion to then dump the Branded Spell Trap. Then you have consistency. Foolish Burial, dump this, searches Alibur. Gold Sark, banish Mercurius, searches any of these, including this. You have Dark Ruler, no more. Since we're playing triple thrust, you have a couple thrust targets in like Dark Ruler and Tactics. So a lot of time you will just use thrust to search engines, such as with Brand Infusion, or when you go first and you get Ash, you go thrust for branded duplication, or branded duplication. It's basically brand duplication, but it's fusion dupe, which can then copy the Brand Infusion effect on your opponent's turn even after you got Ash, and they can't Ash or branded the fusion duplication. Also, you can set branded banishment as well. If you didn't get access to Brand Infusion, you can still, branded banishment set something, and then because this is going to be probably a light and dark dominated event, this is a very good disruption, this event, and very good in the mirror. Then you have a branded in white, another part of the combos. It's fused from grave, and it lets you fuse into some of your other utility fusions that aren't the Albaz fusions, stuff like Warlord Furious Dragon and like Chaos Star Source, which gets the pop off of the brand in white, whereas Guardian Chimera normally wouldn't get popped if you make it off brand in white, because it requires a fusion monster in hand to get the pop, whereas if you just make Chaos Star Source, you get like 2 pops for free. So that's why this is here. Then you have other going second cards. Since this deck can't run very much in for non-engine, there's only a few board breakers and like Ash, because again, if it is going to be a branded heavy format, Ash is going to be very good. So you have Book of Eclipse and Forbidden Droplet. The Book of Eclipse is really good this format because there are no link monsters, so every end board gets completely shut down if your Book of Eclipse resolves. So that's very nice. And then Droplet is obviously, Droplet is very good going second, not specifically just for breaking boards, because it gives you other ways to dodge target negations. So more stuff like Valor and Infirm, they will not do anything to you if you can just summon your Keeper or summon your like Alibur, then they try to negate it, then you can just send it for Droplet and negate their stuff, and then dodge their hand trap anyways. It's like more copies of Cartagia going second too. So it's offensive and defensive, which obviously you can set these going first as interruptions as well. That's why these are specifically chosen as the board breakers of choice. Then 3 brand opening, went to 3. High Spirits is very nice, especially in lines with double Grand Guignol. So the double Grand Guignol may look weird for people who haven't been playing with it, but the idea is you have Cartagia in grave a lot of the times, then Cartagia adds stuff in your end phase. So if you don't have anything you want to discard off the brand High Spirits, or you just don't have a target, you can wait until the end phase where your Cartagias, for example, you would have like a very common setup is like you would have a Titanic class summoning Quem in the end phase. Quem would dump Cartagia because you send a fusion monster to the grave this turn, the Cartagia adds it back in the hand, and then you can brand High Spirits to Cartagia during the end phase after the Cartagia adds itself back in the hand, because you have a second Grand Guignol. And then because you monster was then left your extra deck while the Quem was on the field, because you activated High Spirits in the end phase after Quem was summoned, and then the Quem can trigger to summon back the Cartagia immediately for your opponent's turn. So yeah, that's very nice. That's like one of the main combo lines with brand High Spirits that people may not know about. Obviously, you can just brand High Spirits any dragon monster, and it's basically full combo too. So that's nice. And word of advice: if you have Ash and they activate High Spirits, Ash this, especially with Brand Fusion at 1. Don't wait for the Brand Fusion. If you wait for the Brand Fusion, they're gonna get value off the High Spirits anyways, and they're gonna get the Titanic Lad engraved to summon the Quem anyways, and they're gonna have more value. Whereas if you just Ash the High Spirit, it stops all of that, and there's a high chance that they don't have the Brand Fusion because it's limited. They would have to surge it anyway. So like this is probably the Ash target you want to look most for in branded now. The don't hold it for branded fusion at all times. That's not correct anymore. Especially since if they have access to branded fusion and they have something like a thrust, they can then thrust for duplication. Whereas if you ash them like a high spirits and prevent them from getting branded fusion in the first place, they can't thrust for duplication. So keep these things in mind. And obviously, called by cross out, stop the Ash Blossom. You have double retribution. I don't know if double retribution is needed without grass, but generally you use one turn one as a way to get to your brand fusion, get to your combo, and then you can actually set one later on as an interruption, because this is a solemn warning on the field, by the way, in case you didn't know. So yeah, it's a pretty nice interruption too, and yeah, it's decent to draw as well, but because it's a nice discard to all of that stuff. And then the extra deck, so obviously you have a Titanic Lad, Albion, the one Albion, double Mirror Jade, Lubellion, the double Grand Guignol. I explained the reason for the double Grand Guignol earlier, but yeah, you don't need to, but I think 2 is alright if you have them. Rinbrim for the send off, Mirror Jade, the Albion, which we're not running the gimmick. There is a lock available, so the DDD lock is legal. You can run this. Admittedly, I don't think it's really necessary in this kind of event, but feel free. You can definitely do this, and it's a very nice play when you get ashed, because you can do the full combo to, if you have thrust for after your brand fusion gets ashed, you can just set duplication and do the full combo to DDD lock your opponent after getting ashed with a fusion duplication on their turn, where they can no longer ash you. So yeah, that's something you can still do this event. I'm not usually choosing to do that, so Sanctifier doesn't have that utility, but it's a nice card to run. There's no max E either, so it's not like you need this for the max E line, but I guess it could be theoretically be used for Fool Loss or something. Chaos Star Source is like a Guardian Chimera that's more versatile. We're still playing Guardian Chimera because I'm not running super poly targets, but there's lots of instances where you make Chaos Star Source where that Guardian Chimera wouldn't trigger. For example, as previously mentioned with stuff like Brandon White, just banishing Fusion Material from the grave, where Guardian Chimera wouldn't trigger, Chaos Star Source would trigger. You can make Chaos Star Source with Cartasia to pop cards, whereas Guardian Chimera only gets effect when fused with a spell effect, so Cartasia into Guardian Chimera does not work. Don't try to do that, please. But Cartasia into Chaos Star Source works. And yeah, there's also another target, Portal Furious Dragon. It's just a quick play pop, pretty nice. Drago Stapelia probably doesn't come up as often anymore in Modern Branded. You do have a Light and Darkness Dragon Lord, which is something you can make now in Modern Branded for like when you have a low engine hands, or you have like Branded Fusion or nothing. And it's better than ending on like just Mirror Jade Pass, for example. You Mirror Jade plus Light and Darkness Dragon, and then having this on the field just chain blocks your. It makes your Brand Fusion unashable even after it uses all its effects, because it always automatically chains. So it's pretty funny, and yeah, then we have Coridas. This is probably only including this because I have a royal rare of this. But yeah, this is another summon thing you can summon off the Grand Guignol, and since I'm running double Grand Guignol, it helps having additional targets to summon with its special summon effect. And it's very funny how like Grand Guignol is a way to play around Bystials, because if say your opponent tries to Bystial you while you have access to Grand Guignol either on the field or in the grave, then when they summon the Bystial, you can immediately tag out the Grand Guignol into a Quem, and then Quem dumps whatever spare and soul trap you can still continue calling from there. So that's a way to play around Bystials too. But yeah, obviously what I'm saying here is all covered in April's 20-hour guide. So if you want to play Brandon for real, go check out her video on on this deck. But if you just want to play this for event, I think the information I provided you is gonna suffice, because this is probably gonna be maybe if not the best, like top 2 at minimum deck in this event. Alright, so the next deck that people have been hyping up for this event is White Forest Azamina. And this is the new deck from the new selection pack. Well, the Azamina cards. I know the White Forest cards have been there for a while, but the Azamina cards are what really gave this deck a huge buff. And LZ as well as also came in the new pack. So, this is Konami, classic, trying to sell a new pack, making one of the decks from the new pack one of the best decks in the event. I will say though that this deck is missing one very important component, for this event, and that is the Fiendsmith cards. Specifically the Link Monsters. You still have Engraver and Tract and Lacrima. Technically, you could use Engraver to get Lacrima to make like 2 level 6 monsters, but again, without the Link Monsters, that doesn't really do anything. You get 2 level 6 bodies on the field, which is like okay, I suppose. It's not really, doesn't really feel like that's worth running the entire package, like a couple extra deck slots. Admittedly, without Link Monsters, also the extra deck slots are a little more loose, but I don't think a Fiendsmith is really the way to. It's like really worth the flex spots to run in this deck without the Link Monsters. And you could also run Toy Box. So this is more of a pure Azamina White Forest, even though I say pure, but that's already 2 different archetypes. So how does that make sense? But whatever. Like you could run the Toy Box cards too to fill up slots as well, like these, because you know, without the Fiendsmith cards, this is what people used to run before. That and Centur-ion. Probably don't run Centur-ion in this event because they banned Crimson Dragon, which is like one of the, I suppose, one of the bigger payoffs for the deck, as well as just they hit Centur-ion pretty hard. So probably don't run the Centur-ion cards with this. If you're to run another sub engine with this deck, I would recommend running Toys. If you own these, of course, because it's not worth crafting this just to play for this event if you don't already own Toys, because you probably won't be playing Toys with this deck in Constructed. But if you do own the Toy cards, then yeah, these are good cards to run in here as well. But yeah, I will say one thing about the Link Monsters too, is that this deck may look like, outside of like the, you know, the Fiendsmith sub engine, it may look pretty like full power, but this deck relies on Link Monsters quite a bit. Like if you look at an average White Forest Azamina deck, about a third of the extra deck is actually Link Monsters. So unlike Branded, which Branded does not really depend on Link Monsters at all, Link Monsters are actually pretty vital to this deck strategy. So it does impact your end board a little bit. Sometimes it impacts your ability to play through hand traps, because this deck also runs like Elf and SP and stuff like that. And obviously with the thing with the Toy Box cards is that Toy Box, you get a lot of extra bodies, and without Link Monsters, you don't have a lot of stuff to do with a lot of extra bodies. Like you can only make so many synchros, good synchros a turn before it's like you start getting to the weeds of like level 10 synchros. Like you can make like a Changing, for example, if you wanted to, or like a Chaos Angel on your turn that's like light and dark, but maybe not even that, because where are you gonna get the dark part of the Chaos Angel, right? You're just making a light Chaos Angel on your turn as part of your end board. But yeah, so to get onto the ratios, these are pretty standard White Forest ratios. 3LZ, it's the best one. Unlike the other ones, it doesn't get hit by, it doesn't minus you so much, especially when you get hit by Imperm and stuff like that. And then you have 3 Sylvie, the best level 4 tuner. This card is normal or special. You add a White Forest spell trap from your deck to your hand. There's a lot of pretty sure, yeah, this is the one that bounces the Synchro from your grave back to your extra deck and then special summon itself. So yeah, that is why this is the best tuner. Rusia, you run out of 1 copy because it's only good if you already have a White Forest monster. So like you don't want to draw this by itself. It's not that great. And then 1 LZ, again, it's searchable. This is the new one. This is the one that lets you fusion summon Azamina monster from your extra deck. So these. Speaking of the Azamina cards, the Azamina cards are great. A Diabellstar is like an ordinary Azamina card. Although admittedly, starting with Diabellstar is a bit worse than starting with Deception, but you guys all know what the Azamina cards do by now if you've played any of the latter, like summon Murcielago, you know, get a search for your starter, you know, get full combo, and then make Ilia Sylvia, so you get a negate on top of that, and then you do all that on normal summoning. It's fantastic. And any deck that can run this engine should probably heavily consider running this engine, because who doesn't want to search full combo plus have an Omni negate before they even start their plays without normal summoning? Like who wouldn't want that, right? And yeah, well, this deck isn't running the original Symbol Spoils that Snake Eyes does for obvious reasons, like where's the level 1 fire monster, but instead you're gonna often add Symbol Spoils of the White Forest. So this like all the other all the other White Forest cards, if this spell trap is sent to the graveyard by monster effect, you can set it so that applies for Spoils as well and Symbol Spoils. And these are often the two spell and trap you're gonna have on your end board, and Sinful Spoils is the one where you can fusion summon a monster from your extra deck, a monster from your hand or field. So oftentimes you can use this to go into like a Guardian Chimera on your opponent's turn as a disruption. Or because we have room, like you could also go into Saint Azamina. Very funny, where your opponent can't target cards on their field, graveyard, or banished with card effects, and your opponent takes any bad on you taken. But it's very funny, and then you can use this to summon out a Moa Regina, which is also normally not really played, but you may not even have this. You might have dismounted this already, but it's another option. And this is like a quick play, pop 2 cards as well, so you can have like a Saint Azamina where you prevent your opponent from targeting any of their own cards, and then as well as a sort of a quick play pop like effect. Well, you need another Sinful Spoils to trigger this. So this card's not that great. I'm gonna be honest. Like probably most of the time you just want to do Guardian Chimera, but the Saint Azamina comes up where this deck does run fusions and synchro monsters that are both level 6 or higher, so you can technically make this. Yeah, and Tales of the White Forest is a searcher. Again, you send these all for your White Forest effects, and then they get them back for free. Woes lets you go into Silvera on your opponent's turn to book your opponent's monsters, which admittedly, keep in mind, you may not want to do this, or this may not be that great against every deck. Specifically something like Branded, which is like a mainly fusion deck. Booking an entirely fusion based deck is not going to be as effective as booking an entire synchro based deck. Yeah, you do this against a synchro deck, or like in a mirror match, this is very good. Against Branded, maybe not so good. So yeah, and then another Sinful Spoils, Morian, you can basically, if you control level 5 or higher illusion monster, you can also just set this card back for free. So it's not like a technical White Forest card, although it acts like another White Forest spell trap in the similar sense, where you can discard it, you can pitch it for your effects, and then get it back. It's just you can only do that once because this banishes itself after it resets itself. But usually, if you have that set up, and that means you probably already have the Ilia Sylvia up as a negate to let you reset this in the first place, you're probably gonna win. Although again, this is another one of those cards that's a book-like effect, so maybe against a fusion-based deck this isn't that great. That's why you have other forms of disruption on your end board too, as well as hand traps like Droll. I think it's probably gonna be very good. Valor, Ash, its main thing is like against Branded, you kind of want to hand trap them. You kind of don't want them to get their engine going, because then board breakers are less effective versus them. And then also you have like extra room for like Bystials and stuff. Again, if you have the toy cards, you could probably cut stuff like the Fuelos and the Bystials for toy engine as well. And the extra deck, there's a lot of room in here. Okay, like you need the Ilia Silva, the Murcielago, and the Guardian Chimera. And then for synchros, you need the Formula Synchron, the 2 level 6 White Forest, the Diabell, the Baron, and then that's pretty much it. The rest of the stuff is flex spots. So one very funny flex spot for this deck right now is the Magistus cards, the Magus Tussies, as MET would say. Basically, this is a level 8 synchro monster you can make with a spellcaster tuner, which most of your tuners are spellcasters, so no worry there. And yeah, if this card is single sub, you can equip one Magistus monster from your X deck to this card. So you either equip Iwas, sure, we'll call it that, or Varum. And when your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters with the same type of card as a Magistus monster in your spell and trap zone. So basically, you can choose to, you can single summon this card, you can choose to either shut down, basically VFD your opponent from fusion effects or synchro effects. And given how this is the Synchro and Fusion Festival, you can see how good this is. So this might actually even be one of the best end board pieces in your deck. I know you probably don't have this, because like who the hell has Magistus cards in the year 2025? But if you manage to have this UR and you haven't dismantled it yet, like me for some reason, I don't know why I still have this. I think I might have forgotten about this, honestly. Yeah, you can literally floodgate your opponent's entire deck as long as they're playing one of the other. If they're playing a fusion and synchro based deck like this, maybe it doesn't shut down completely. But yeah, imagine having Zerora equipped with the IWAS versus branded. Yeah, nice, right? Go next, right? And other flex spots, again, the Saint Azamina and the Mo Regina, because there's no Link monster, so what else are you going to play in here? You can play Super Poly 2, dedicate 2 slots to Mud Dragon Garura. That's always a viable option, even though Super Poly is limited, so it's kind of weird dedicating 2 extra deck slots for 1 card. At the same time, it's not like these cards are that important anyway, so you could do that as well. Super Poly. Well, that is 2 words. Yeah, Super Poly, limited, but still viable. We have Dissipator, mainly because there's main deck Bystial, so anytime you draw a main deck Bystial, you can take advantage of Dissipator. Then Chaos Angel. For another option, you can synchro with the Formula Synchro Whip on your opponent's turn if you don't want to make a Baron, or immediately you can make a light Chaos Angel as another disruption. So yeah, White Force Azamina, definitely one of the decks to look out for. Maybe not the best per se, but probably going to be one of the most played decks up there with like branded, and probably the next deck you'll see. Alright, and next deck is going to be Chimera with the Azamina package. Admittedly, you don't have to run the Azamina package with Chimera, although personally I think it's pretty decent. You know, this is a fusion deck, and especially if you run the Patchwork engine, this deck has a lot of good discard fodder, or a lot of free discard fodder, you know, with multiples of like you do clog with multiple Patchwork sometimes. You do have a lot of polys in hand that you may not even need because you have other ways to fuse. You have the HM chain, which gain effects or which gain value when sent to the graveyard, so you know, more cards that gain value of being sacked by Deception or sent off die Bellstar, and then you know you just get a free Omni Negate on your end board too, which is, especially with Links being banned and, you know, Xyz being banned, you know, why not add a bit more to your end board, right? And yeah, the Chimera, it's pretty straightforward, honestly, especially since, again, this is another deck which would benefit a lot from the Fiendsmith cards, but with the Fiendsmith cards without the Link monsters, it's not really a Fiendsmith engine anymore, so there's that. Also, this deck does benefit off Beatrice more than a lot of other decks because Nightmare Apprentice is level 6, so you have a lot of easy access to Beatrice, and Beatrice is one of the other ways you get even easier access to Diabell, although you probably don't even need that much easier access. But yeah, Beatrice is pretty big for this deck, and obviously you don't have it. I believe the barrier statue, I didn't check, but the barrier statue are banned, right? Okay, yeah, good. Thank God. Okay, we don't have to worry about Dark Barrier statue in your opponent's Chimera. Don't worry. Don't do none of that BS. But yeah, the Chimera ratios. Honestly, the ratios are pretty self-explanatory for the most part. You just run max copies of Gazelle and max copies of Cornfield Cotto to search your one-off Mirror Sword Knight, because Mirror Sword Knight is limited, so that is the one direct hit to this deck. I have a couple of copies of Birthmit, and normally you know, it'd be important to note that this deck doesn't actually fusion lock itself until you activate Birthmit's effect. So you could do a lot of your Link plays, a lot of Beatrice plays or Xyz plays and Fiendsmith plays before you lock it up with Big Wing Birthmit. This event, because there's only fusion and synchros, there's no Links, there's no Xyz, it doesn't really matter. This direction, you're only going to be fusion something 90% of the time anyways. Like, you see, there's only 2 synchros in here, and you rarely will ever go into these. I'm not even sure there's like a convenient way to go into these, like what, Valor plus Die Bellstar, Valor, Jesus Christ, Ash plus on the Die Bellstar to go into Baron, yeah, sure. Like, the fusion locking in this event does not really matter. Then you have Nightmare Apprentice, the best card in the deck, searches any illusion monster you want, so it's another way to search your Cornfield Cotto and your Mirror Swords Knight, or it can search your Die Bells to summon. Although, admittedly, it's a bit hard to set up the Diabells if you don't hard open the Simplest Woods, but I mean, that's another reason why you run the Azamina package, right? Because running the Azamina package means that you don't have to depend on Beatrice dumping the Moria and to make your Diabell start. You search out the Nightmare Apprentice live. You could just hard open any of your other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Why am I counting this? I know how many cards are in the Azamina engine. There's 7 sinful spoilers cards in the Azamina engine, like Jesus Christ. But yeah, you do have 7 copies of ways to get easy access to a sinful spoilers trap card or a sinful spoilers card in your grave, which then means the Diabells is automatically live to be special. And this card's pretty nice part of your end board, especially when you're not going for what's it called, the Dark Barrier statue or other floodgates. The Diabells is your next best end board piece, or honestly I would say it's your best end board piece anyways, especially without the other options. So yeah, there's another reason why the Azamina package is really good. And you do also search this for free out the Azamina package. Again, this is admittedly this isn't that great. Maybe it might be prudent to search another sinful spoils trap or another sinful spoils card instead of this, because oh my god, I can't spell today. Because this is a book-like effect, and with half the decks in the format being fusion decks, this is not really as impactful as it could be. So I don't know, maybe look for something else like a Guild of the Sinful Spoils or whatever. But this is just the standard one you run. And yeah, typically your end board I think should be something like assuming you open the Azamina cards, you would have a Alias Sylvia as an Omni-Negate. You would have the Diabells, which prevents. It's a once per turn pop. Destroys any strategy that uses the quick play spells, Runick, and yeah, they have to set cards before they activate them. So basically, quick play spells are dead. So Super Poly's dead against you if you have Diabells, but the one of, by the way. And then you loop the card off their hand with Chimera, and then you have a Chimera Fusion set to go into a Guardian Chimera on their turn, or a Moa Regina. This is like the one deck that can actually make Moa Regina, but like not with the Hallowed Azamina cards, or not with the Hallowed Azamina itself, but like just naturally, because this deck runs illusion monsters and like higher level fiend monsters, given the Baphomet. And yeah, there's the one Master Talent, the one Master Talent. It's another way to reborn or get access to your Diabells, because you can just reborn it. And you have the Patchwork engine. You have the one LZ. You have 3 Diabells, 3 Deception, the Poly, the Patchwork for the Edgems, the one Hallowed Azamina, the one of Super Poly, the 3 Chimera Fusion, the one Wanted, the Sinful Spoils card that you search off of the Murcielago. Then you have for non-engine space, this deck, admittedly if you run the Azamina cards, you have less room for non-engine space, so you really just have Ash and like Droll, which I think these are probably in general probably the most impactful ones, although Droll is a little weird. Sometimes like against Branded, Droll ends their turn because they lead with Albions, but if they're playing around Droll, then Droll can do nothing against Branded, so it's a bit iffy. It's really good in the mirror match, obviously. It's good against other White Forest or like Azamina decks, so it's probably fine to run this. And yeah, the extra deck has loads of room. Again, this deck, without Link monsters and without Beatrice and the Fiendsmith cards, you have so much more room in this deck that a lot of this stuff doesn't really matter. There's like Super Poly target, Super Poly target, Super Poly target, 2 Chimera, even though you only really need 1. So you obviously don't have to feel the need to craft the second one if you don't have it. Like you would never play 2 in the normal build anyways. 2 Baphomet, you do play 2 Baphomet because this sends a Beast Fiend or Illusion Monster from your deck or graveyard, so you have more access to this as well. And also more access to Master Tal. You have the Azamina dual fusions, the dual level 6 fusions. You have the 1 Chimera for OTKs. Admittedly, you don't play this either usually, but again, you have the room. 1 Magnum the Reliever. This guy can relieve my Magnum anytime. I mean, what? The Moa Regina, the Guardian Chimera, 2 random synchros, which admittedly I don't even know why Baron's in here. Like, am I really gonna normal summon Ash to synchro with a Diabell Star? Probably not, right? This could be literally anything else. Chaos Angel, you can make Chaos Angel more often because you don't need a tuner theoretically. So I guess that's why this is here. And yeah, this is Chimera. Alright, so next up is a deck that I'm surprised is legal for yet another fusion event. And I don't know why Konami keeps letting this deck slip through the cracks. It's apparently nobody plays this deck. That's probably the main reason why. Because I can't imagine looking at this deck and thinking, yeah, this is exactly what we want the people to be playing in a fusion event. But, you know, this is the video on the best decks for this format, so I'm gonna have to include this Dinomorphia deck, especially if you win the coin flip. And you best believe that if there are people playing this deck, they're gonna be scooping all games going second and just playing the games where they go first, and just to get it done with quickly, because that's the best way to speedrun this event. Admittedly, you don't get the missions done, but well, we'll see what missions we get for this event. But yeah, Dinomorphia. So you might be wondering, what are the hits to this deck? Well, there are 0 hits to Dinomorphia cards themselves. Okay, the hits are to the other supporting cards, such as the Pot of Duality. The Pot of Duality is banned for this event. It's like they knew that they don't want people to be playing these slow back rolly stun type decks, but so they banned Pot of Duality. But you know, oh no, what are we gonna do? What the Pot of Duality went from 1 to 0, and anyways, and the other hit was the Solemn Judgment, which is admittedly Solemn Judgment is a good hit because this card is obnoxious as hell in events, especially when it's at 3. But the problem is that's nowhere near enough to actually make this deck anywhere near unplayable. Like, not anywhere near unplayable. Like, this, you could argue this deck, you don't even notice any of the hits. Because, like, why? Like, what does that even do? It's not like this deck doesn't have searchable copies of Solemn Judgment, by the way. And also, there's other cards that protect backrooms, cards like Heavy Storm and Lightning Storm, which, by the way, Lightning Storm, let me check. Okay, Lightning Storm is legal, but it's limited, so it's a bit awkward. So you have Lightning Storm, Duster, and Heavy Storm as your outs to this deck, and this deck has Iron Thunder, which is still a Solemn, by the way. It's worse, but it still does the job of protecting your back row. You have, by the way, Runick cards, which yes, I am playing Runick cards in here because I mean, what else are you gonna run the extra deck, right? Like, you can use these as basically just to summon Hukin out, and then you like nice Heavy Storm, like a nice Duster. That did nothing for you. There's even Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which I'm not even running, by the way. But you can definitely, maybe it's correct to run Lord of the Heavenly Prison over Runics. Maybe, because like this also protects your backer. You have infinite ways to protect your backer from board wipes, anyways, even without the Solemn Judgment. So it's like not that big of a deal that this is limited at all. And yeah, the Dinomorphia card. You got Theresia at free, which can set any Dinomorphia trap card. So you have 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 of this, 3 Trap Trick, and then 3 Wannabe. I'm not even running Fossil Deck because the deck is consistent enough even without Fossil Deck, arguably, because you can Wannabe hit one of these 9 trap cards in the end phase too, and then that also gets you a starter. It's like 12 guarantee starters and like 3 more probable starters in this deck to be able to get a card that gets you to Rexstorm turn 1. And by the way, the fact that Super Poly is limited makes it harder to out Rexstorm, because you know, if Super Poly was at 3, it would be hella toxic in an event with fusion monsters. Admittedly, I would not want that, but that is a way that would be one of the ways to, you know, have an easy out to Rexstorm. But now that it's limited, like, you know, good luck drawing the 1 of Rexstorm, 1 of Super Poly for the Rexstorm. You know, better have it, right? And 2 Diplos, this card sucks, but you just need that as fusion material, especially for Domain. Then you have the 3 Fair Flames. You know the synergy, right? Pay all your life points, and then you shuffle back all of your opponent's monsters. So cool removal. 3 Trap Tricks as mentioned, 3 Dinomorphia Domain, 3 Frenzy. These are just the fusion cards that get you Kenrina and Rexstorm. You have the 3 Utility Dinomorphia Trap cards, Alert, which if your opponent does out your Rexstorm, you know, just summon it back, or summon back Theresia to set another Frenzy and then summon another Rexstorm. You know, what they do? Root. It's just a pop. It's a searchable destruction. So, and then you pop your own Dinomorphia monsters. All your Dinomorphia monsters float into another Dinomorphia monster when they get popped. So, you know, more advantage there. And then Sonic is just if you didn't hard open a Solemn or a Runick card, you can just set Sonic, and then that will be then you have a Solemn anyways for your out to your mass boardwipe. You have 3 intact. This card's disgusting. It's your opponent will never kill you if you resolve intact. I'll say that. It protects you from Ash Blossom on your Dinomorphia trap cards. And also, like, the turn you activate this, you take battle damage for the rest of the turn. So, like, you will never die when this resolves. Most people don't realize that. But even if past this turn, when you're during damage calculation, your life points are 2k or lower, you can banish this to take no damage from the battle damage. This is the counter traps are the ones that prevent you taking damage from battle damage, and that's more important because 1, battle damage is more common than effect damage, and 2, there aren't many good counter spells or good Dinomorphia counter spells. There's like 2 of them, and Sonic you don't even search if you already have access to a better counter trap. So intact is gonna be the trap that saves your ass most of the time from actually dying to damage. And of course, Strike is still, Judgment, you gotta limit that, but Strike, arguably the better Solemn, is also is unlimited. So there's more ways. So like your opponent is never gonna actually be able to ash your Frenzy or your Domain. It's just not gonna happen. You have so many ways to search for a Solemn, or search for a Solemn Strike-like card to be able to negate the Ash for your Dinomorphia cards. That you just have to be super unlucky if your opponent actually gets that off. It results in Ash versus you. And yeah, the Iron Thunder, again, Solemn Judgment at home. Please play into the Iron Thunder column. Like, just activate. I know it's weird, like, you're playing into Infirm against the trap-based deck, but playing around Iron Thunder is much more beneficial. It's going to be much more beneficial to you. Just play into the columns of a card net. If you get Infirm, so be it. But like, it's better than like, you'd rather just get the free pop, make them pop their own cards with the Iron Thunder. And the extra deck, like, honestly, this doesn't matter. It's like you have 3 Kendradina, 3 Stealth Bird, you have 3 Rexterm. This is just fusion material. You never actually summon this out unless you're way winning and you just want to swag on your opponent by activating a Solemn Strike where you're at like 200 life points or less. Then you have like Super Poly targets and Mudragon, Dragospelia, Garura. You have the 2 Runicks to pair with the Runicks spells, and then you have Psychic and Punisher. This is like the one relevant synchro because you can go normal summon Ash and then synchro Psychic and Punisher with Rexterm, and you're gonna have less life points than your opponent. Like, that's spoilers. Okay, this card's always gonna be live, so you can enter battle phase and get like a 11k attack Psychic and Punisher for free. That's unaffected, and that's an easy way to push for game too. But again, this is still kind of win more. You don't really need to do that, but if you want to close out games quickly with this deck, that's probably like the one thing this deck has trouble doing, especially when you run the Runic cards. But most of the time your opponent's gonna quit before you get to actually do lethal damage to them, because this deck is frustrating as hell to play against in this type of event. So yeah, be wary of this deck. Not a lot of people are gonna own this deck, but the few that do, you bet your ass are gonna be playing this. Alright, so this was kind of alluded to in the previous deck, the Dinomorphia deck, but this is the first event in a while where Runics are legal. For the most part. There's one glaring issue with the Runic cards, is that none of the main deck cards are the same limitations as they were previously. Is usually they hit the fusions in Runics, and here they left the fusions legal, but just barely. You have 1 Gary and 1 Hugin. So, because for this reason, there's a lot of decks that can pair with Runics. There's a lot of engines you can pair with Runics, like, Naturia, there's White Forest, obviously those are the main ones, but in my opinion, I think probably the best way you're going to play Runics this event is to play Runic Bystial with the Regain package. Mainly because you only have 1 Hugin. This deck needs, every single Rune deck needs multiple Hugin to function. And Runic Bystial is the one deck that can actually still function with just the 1 Hugin, because you can recycle it constantly with cards like Brand Regain. You got to be really careful. Like, you never lose your Hugin. Always make sure you have a regained up when you're gonna banish this Hugin, so you can keep, playing the game forward. That is like so important. This is why I recommend the Runic Bystial version, because this is the one version of the Runic. This is the one variant of Runic that can recycle the Hugin, so that the fact that it's limited, you can still play with it. But yeah, other hits to this deck is that there's only 1 Rebellion, which is honestly also a pretty big hit. That's kind of really annoying, not gonna lie, because that's your access to your regain. It's also part of the reason why I'm running 2 regain, because you kind of want to hard draw this. You know, like honestly, you might want to even consider running 3 just so you have access to this. Like that doesn't even sound bad, honestly. Also, why we're running 3 Bystial Runick, because Runick can get you access to the Lobelia on the end. Yeah. Positives with this deck is that this deck is obviously very good going first. It's a Runick deck. It plays through interruption. There's no max heat to worry about either. And also, the Bystials are very good this format, I think, for this Fusion Synchro Festival. Normally, the problem with Runick Bystial is that you don't have much room for non-engine, but if Bystials count as good non-engine, like I assume they do against cards and decks like White Forest, like Chimera, like Branded, Tier, all of these likely popular fusion decks, then you basically have extra hand traps that you run in your deck. Like you have like 6 plus, or you can even run more. Like you can even run triple Druisworm or triple Baldric if you really feel like it too, and like cut down the level 4 tuners as well. That's also a thing. So you could run like essentially any number of 6 plus hand traps in your deck that also double as engine cards, which solves an issue with this deck and where it doesn't have room for non-engine. Just if the Bystials are good non-engine, then you have lots of non-engine. You have enough non-engine to hopefully play going second or help you play going second. And yeah. Basically, if you don't know how this deck works, it's been a while since this deck has largely been played because Runick has been so like hit or miss in Master Duel, but mostly miss for a while, and especially in events where Runicks have not even been remotely playable and just completely banned. So, yeah, you have these level 4 tuners and you have Hugin. So basically, you use your Runick monsters to go into Hugin. You search the fountain. You synchro the level 4 monster into one of your level 6 monsters, and then with the second Runick spell, you go into Gary, and then, or if you have another level 4 tuner, which I'll tell you about how, I'll talk later about how to get the level 4 tuners, but you can go into a second level, you can go into a level 10 synchro afterwards, and you have like Fountain plus Baron, which is like the minimum usually you have. Sometimes you can have a Dissipator as well. Dissipator can summon back another one of your banished tuners to make another second level 10 on your turn. So sometimes you can have double level 10, including a Dissipator plus like a Fountain, and then you have, if you open multiple Runicks, you get to draw 2 to 3 cards on top of that. So yeah, it snowballs very quickly. Quem is the best one, since Quem, you can hit discard, you can, if you draw Quem plus Cartasia, you can Quem send Alibur, then Alibur counts as Fallen Velbaz in graveyard, so then you can special summon Cartasia. There's your 2 level 4 synchros right there. And it also chain blocks your Fountain, because when a monster leaves the extra deck, you can target a Fallen Velbaz in your graveyard and special summon it. So you can go summon Quem, dump Bystial Alibur, use a Runick spell, summon Hugin, then Hugin chainlink 1, Quem chainlink 2, chain block your Hugin from Ash, and then Quem summon back like the Bystial Alibur, and then you know, keep going from there. You have a level 10 synchro, you have a Fountain access there. If you have a second Runick spell, you're chilling. This package is also pretty nice. The Golden Sorcerer plus the Incredible Ecclesia. These are basically all the Incredible Ecclesia does is summon Golden Sorcerer. Golden Sorcerer, if a monster is banished, which means very often you can use a Bystial to banish a monster, then you can banish this card and then special summon a Light Spellcaster from your graveyard. So you can go like Quem, dump Golden Swordsoul sometimes too, and then summon a Bystial. The Bystial banishes a monster. The Golden Swordsoul banishes itself, brings back the Quem, so that gets you extra bodies that way. Also, the Incredible Ecclesia will add itself back from the graveyard if a fusion monster, I believe, during the end phase, if a fusion was sent to the graveyard this turn, which they are going to be sent this turn because you're going to synchro off your Runick monsters, the Ecclesia adds itself back to your hand during the end phase too. And then Cartasia is just the next best level 4 tuner. Again, you really want to draw a level 4 tuner. Level 4 tuner plus Runick is how you start playing this game. And additionally, you can use Cartasia to dodge stuff like Impermanent Veiler on your Hugin as well by chaining to make a Grand Guignol, dump a Garura, draw another card, get the Fountain, and then activate Fountain and keep going from there. Then the Garura is like, or the Grand Guignol is like another form of interruption as well, or where if they special summon, you can banish it to summon like another Quem or summon a Lulu Lilith, which Lulu Lilith you can use the Runick spells. So if a card loses extra, you can negate a face-up card in the field, so you can use your Runick spells to trigger your Lulu Lilith. Is pretty nice. And also you can use Cartasia during your opponent's turn if it's somehow left on board. If you somehow get stopped and you get like multiple hand trapped, you can still Cartasia go into Grand Guignol, dump Malong bounce your opponent's card, and then you still have the Runick cards to play with too. So, yeah, you have the 3 Ecclesia, 3 Cartasia, 3 Quem, the 1 Golden Sword Soul, 3 Ashes, because Ash I think is going to be good this format, especially with Branded being a projected popular deck. You have to run at least, in my opinion, 1 Magnuma, 3 Saronir, 1 Druisworm, 1 Baldrake, 1 Lubellion. If you want to run more, I would run more Druisworm as well, because this is even better going second. Like, just starting your turn with Druisworm on the field against an established ward, then you summon one of your level 4 tuners. It applies so much pressure, because then you go into like a Baron or go into a Chaos Angel that's unaffected completely, and then you just start breaking your opponent's board that way. It's so nice having a Druisworm. So like I really want to max this out too. I'm not sure what I would cut. Maybe even cut Ash if you're that crazy. To be perfectly honest, you might want to cut. I might experiment with that if I play this deck during this event. And then Runick cards, it's 1 Fountain or 2 Regained, 1 Lubellia, and then it's 16 Runicks. You could probably find room for more as well, but probably from cutting the Ash. Honestly, I like running the Bystial so much. I would rather cut the Ash. I would heavily consider cutting Ash to even run even more Bystials too. So yeah, and then the extra deck, 1 Hugin, 1 Gary, 1 Sleipnir. That's all of the Runick monsters you run. So really be cognizant of putting them back of Regained. You have the Garura for the Grand Guignol, and the Malong for the Grand Guignol, and the Despia and the Ludulilla for the Grand Guignol. Because there's no SP, you have a bit more room. Coral Dragon and Tri-Edge Master as your level 6 synchros. You could run Stardust Charge Warrior if you don't have this, but this is very important because this is a light monster, so that's why this is better. And then Omega, again, somehow if you can't recycle your Runick monsters, you can go into Omega and then recycle them that way. Oh, that's really slow. But oftentimes you just want to make Omega if you have access to this fader, you can Omega handle your opponent. You have the level 10 synchros, Baron, Changing, Chaos Angel. These are all very important, and Dissipator, these are all very important. Chang especially combines very well with Runick cards, because Runick cards always banish your opponent's cards, so you have a quick play banish with Changing. And then 1 Legacia, because you can also make level 12 synchros with Lubellion. And Crimson Dragon is banned, but you can still make Legacia to draw a card. And something else you can run is you can run the Duality package. So Duality also recycles your Runick monsters, so that's another way to recycle them, and also it can dodge Imperm and Valor on your Hugin, and also, funnily enough, you can Duality send the Grand Guignol to summon a Dragoon, which is, I don't think that's good, but that's very funny if you can pull that off. So, yeah, this is in my opinion the best version of Runick to play for this event. And if you're a fan of Joshua Schmidt, if you've been dying to play Runick for one of these events, here you go. So yeah, that's just a taste of some of the best decks that are legal for this event. And that being said, lots of these decks you've noticed are definitely expensive, and clearly they want to try to sell the new pack. But I will be trying to cover budget options, even though the budget options aren't going to be as good as they were the last event. They're still going to be, you should still be able to get through it for the most part. So yeah,